All right. So first, I'm Master Scott Johnson. I'm going to be your guys' speaker and host for this records review brief. This event was put on about a year ago, a very similar situation in a virtual-like environment where we discussed how to properly conduct a records review. And that's what this course is all about. The Air Force does a great job of, hey, here's career progression. Here's how you get from X, Y, and Z to promote. They don't really offer classes to say, hey, when you're looking at somebody's records or you're looking at your own records, here are the things that you need to look for and look at. So that's what this course is all about. Now, you can apply a lot of these practices to your own records, but for the most part, this is you reviewing somebody else's records. Now, I see a couple tech sergeants in the audience and that stuff, maybe a senior NCO or two, and this is perfect. That's where we need to be at. But if you're a staff and you want to learn how to do records reviews, this is great. Or if you're a tech and a master or anybody else who has never learned how to do a records review, that's what this is all about. So you see Leadership University on your screen. You see Chief Hood and Chief Cowper. They are the original creators of the records review brief and how to get things going. They have a great Word doc on Leadership University. It's one of the many Facebook pages that are out there with professional development. But they're pretty much the original OG for this type of stuff, right? They were pre-COVID. They had a great Facebook site with all kinds of professional development, and they really kicked us off. And then once COVID hit, everybody jumped online and started doing things virtually. They just kept their foot on the gas pedal and accelerating. So I personally love that Facebook page a lot, just as much as I love Air Force writing and self-improvement. But yeah, so that's that. Okay, so some of the things we're going to talk about is we're going to make sure you're in the right frame of mind when you're doing records reviews. It's a lot to me. It's a lot like bullet writing and deck writing. I put on a certain type of music. I'm in my little comfort zone of writing and I do my thing. The minute I stray away from my comfort zone, my writing gets terrible. So when you're doing your records reviews, we're going to talk about frame of mind and what you need. And I'll go into detail a little bit more and elaborate. SURF, we're going to talk about how to review a SURF and go from there on different pointers and stuff that you should be looking for. EPRs and decorations. We have a very much a Skittles approach, and I'll explain all that, color coding, and once we get into it, and it'll make a lot more sense. It's a great visual aid for setting yourself up and setting up your subordinates to understand where they're lacking or where they're succeeding in, right? The most important thing I can't stress is feedback. Feedback. This whole thing doesn't make sense unless you sit down and carve out the time and opportunity to discuss with your people. So we're, of course, going to double tap on feedback. Okay, so we talked about the frame of mind. I am not the type of presenter who's going to sit here and read off these slides verbatim and stuff that you can already see on your own, right? Like you don't need me really much adding much more to this than what's in front of you. But there are some key points that do need to be hit. So I will, on this slide, read some things off. If you are not printing out a copy of your EPR when you sign it, if you're not filing a copy of your declaration when you receive it, if you are not keeping a file of all pertinent data from every assignment, PCS, TDY, orders, vouchers, letters of appreciation, letters of recognition, if you're not involved in the writing of your performance report, then you are not in control of your own career. And that can be an issue. Some supervisors don't have the experience to give the proper mentorship, and they're learning. I guarantee you they're in classes just like this, learning how to do stuff like that. So I'm not telling you need to be writing your EPR, but you need to be involved in the process. I know what the AFI states, and I fully support it. But what I'm telling you, provide those data points, provide the information for the bullet content so they can write that information and accurately describe your career and what you're doing, because it is your career. Okay, so why should you care about records? We're going to go on a little story time for this one. A couple years ago, probably close to 4 years ago now, I tested for tech for the second time, and I actually missed it by 0.46, and that's because my records were not squared away. Now, I had great supervision backing me, and I'm sure once you give your supervision the opportunity and your leadership team, they're going to do the same thing. But I, like I said, missed it by 0.46, 1 point, an achievement medal. So the first thing they did is said, "Hey, Scott, go take a look at your records. Go see if something was missed." And there was an achievement medal that was missing, exact 1 point, exactly enough to cover what I needed. But that's a very reactive approach, and that's not what the Air Force is looking for. They have file freeze dates now. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, they did not have those file freeze dates, this static closeout dates, and all that stuff. It was actually almost 6 years ago now. You can see how bad my memory is. But point is, don't be reactive. Don't wait for your supervision, your leadership team to say, "Hey, go check your records, see if they're missing something, see what got missed." You should already be doing that. With file freeze dates now, like I mentioned, that's where you should be getting after all that information and getting after that and making sure your records are scored away, uptight, ready to go. Now, if you do a good job once a year, once every 6 months, and you go in and you review your stuff and make sure your records are scored away and good to go, then you're all set. It's very easy to go in and update a couple documents here and there, update a couple things. Your CSS and your MPF teams are going to drop in your EPRs and your decorations. There's a lot of people getting decorations and EPRs processed compared to how many people there are in MPF. So do yourself a favor, do them a favor, just check the process. The file freeze dates are very important. I cannot stress those enough. You can also have incorrect records loaded to you. I had a member's CCAF loaded to my CCAF, which counted my CCAF as complete. My CCAF was complete, but it was under different circumstances. My bachelor's was completed, and all the credits transferred, and everything was scored away. But for the couple years, I had somebody else's education records loaded against me. Now that's a part of the process where you just got to make sure you're double checking everything. Go and look at that degree plan. I had a visual arts class. I've never taken a visual arts course in my life, right? So, or music arts too. That was another one that was in there. So mistakes happen. People are human. They get uploaded or incorrectly. Names get clicked on, and then you're with somebody else's transfer. So I know the slides say withhold promotion, but it's not only records don't only affect promotion. They affect your ability to be in talent marketplace and go after those jobs that you need to. They affect you getting looked at for stratifications, which deals with promotions, but also getting vectored for different wing positions. Right, wings aren't allocated direct members. Like I'm not going to be assigned from PCS to indirect. Hey, you're going to go work at this wing. No, you're going to go work at this squadron, and then you're going to go to the wing. Wings use squadrons and their groups to cover their manning. So with that, they do interviews, the interview process, which is done with your records. The whole board process, like promotions, is all records. You don't go in front of the board, your records do. So that's why you need to make sure you're scored away. If you ever hear of the term ROP or your rope, your records of performance. So that's your records of performance, your evaluation. So it's going to be your SURF, that's going to be your EPRs, and likely a fitness rip at the back end of everything. Decorations could be involved in it too, depending on what they're looking for, whoever's asking for your rope and what they would like to see. So I've seen it a couple different ways. Some with decorations and your fitness rip. So SURF, EPRs, decorations and your fitness rip, or no decorations and it's just your EPRs, your SURF, and your fit. A couple different ways. Okay, so let's jump into looking at a SURF and what this all means. So we're going to start at the very top. We're going to work our way down through. We're going to talk about highlighting some key component areas and discussing some, elaborating on some of these bullet points that are off to the side right now. So just to get an overall scope of the person, to really know who you're reviewing and on a deeper level, right? You might know of their name, you might see them working, they might work directly for you, but they're about to share their security number with you. They're about to share their whole Air Force career. So if you've known them for a year because they just PCS'd in, they're going to share all this information with you. Value their trust in you. Make sure you keep this stuff taken care of. Keep their identity and their information squared away and locked up, right? So, but in order to really understand who you're evaluating and what's going on in their records, make sure you highlight their name, their grade, their projected grade, any projected assignments, duty titles. So duty titles is going to come in later, but if you highlight the duty title now, it's very quick to jump up when we discuss it later on. And then you want to look at birth date, which is going to be for commission opportunities. I know enlisted going over to the dark side. I'm just kidding, O's. If you guys are watching, I am. It's just an opportunity that they need to further progress themselves. And what better way to set up our future leaders in the Air Force, who are our officers, with the best and brightest enlisted folks that we can. So do yourself a favor and make sure you're vectoring your people for those opportunities in those positions. Okay, so we talked about the top portion. We're going to highlight the name and information, their higher tenure, right? So now we're going to get into some of the AFSC specific information. If they don't have an SEI loaded to them, there's likely a dropped off somehow. Most people have SEIs loaded to them. I'm a maintainer by trade, so I have probably 3 or 4 SEIs loaded to me. And that's just the different airframes that I've worked on. SEIs, especially in the maintainer world, are huge because that's what helps you get your jobs. Because I can go apply for a specific job writing TOs and writing different performance test equipment type stuff for those different aircrafts if I have the experience. So that SEI code is your experience on your qualifications for that aircraft. So there's a link in there to go make sure you're all squared away with getting your SEIs loaded to you and looking to see what's there. So make sure you please check those out. And if you're reviewing those records, again, there should be some type of SEI loaded. Excuse me. Their primary and control AFSCs should look very similar. Sometimes there might be a prefix code on the beginning of that AFSC, which is going to change things up a little bit. If they're a flying crew chief, there's going to be a C, or if they're a test type aviator, they're going to have an X. There's multiple different codes that they're going to have in front of their AFSC, but their primary and the control AFSC should look pretty close. There's a big difference, then something got loaded incorrectly, and this is something where you can flag and get it fixed. Academic information. So I'm going to put this out there, and we really, as enlisted members, we need to bridge the gap educationally wise to help better advise our officers. And with that, it starts at the associates. And then it goes to, having your CCAF and your associates, and then your bachelor's, and working towards a master's if you so choose. If not, bachelor's is great. But tuition assistance is there for you guys in the education office, provides these great opportunities for you to go get your degree knocked out, whether it's CLEP and Dante's, which CLEP right now you can take at home in your own personal workspace area. They're going to put a lockdown browser in and everything like that, but it's an opportunity. So when you're reviewing somebody's records, if they don't have their associates completed, right, because it's not just CCAF anymore, it's any type of associates, or if they do have their associates, their CCAF, go ahead and highlight those green. If they don't, put it in red. And I'm not saying put it in red or highlight in red as like this is this huge black eye type thing. It's just a marker for you to see quickly and visually, and just have that conversation with them. If there is any blank spaces or none, those are placeholders. Try and find a way to get those filled in. As you can see, this person's got a bachelor's in rocket science, and then construction technology, and then they got their PMC. So I will hit on PMC for a second because things have changed. They have altered it. So now that you have to complete senior NCOA to get your program manager certification. So be mindful, course 14 and course 15 aren't there for you to capitalize on those opportunities to knock that out. If you already have your PMC, get it loaded to your academic information. Very easy to get that done. Your education office will walk you through the process. Now you see PME on there, but we're going to touch on that on this slide. So PME, appropriate level of PME for rank. Now what that means, if they are a staff, they should have ALS completed. If ALS isn't loaded, that was a technical error. They have to go to ALS before they can sew on staff. So, or a waiver has to be put in place. Go ahead and mark that in red, and then have a conversation with them. Maybe they didn't know, maybe they did attend ALS and they're not on a waiver. It's just a technical error, right, on somebody's part. If they're looking for more opportunities because they're a tech and they haven't gone NCOA yet, talk to them about filling short notice billets, because they do drop frequently that somebody can't go and they're looking for somebody to fill that seat. Have a member have the conversation with their first sergeant and their supervisor, of course, to make sure that they're eligible, one, and then two, they have the capacity to go. When I talk to my troops, we talk a lot about filling short notice billets, because that's your chance to pick when you go. Because the Air Force isn't going to always allow that to happen. Yep, they give you a field range of 3 or 4 class dates, so it's a little more user friendly than what it was when I went to NCOA. Actually, it's a lot more user friendly than when I went to NCOA. Still consider it, because you never know what life is going to happen when you say, "Yep, these dates look great for me right now." They drop a class date on you, and all of a sudden, you're having a baby, right? Or you're having a huge vacation plan that you weren't originally thinking about, and then you've lost track of your NCOA class date. Life gets in the way is all I'm getting at. So if a short notice billet works for you, knock it out, get it complete, get it done with. There are other opportunities to go to some sister service PMEs. So when you're reviewing records and you see something in with Marines or Navy or any of the other Coast Guard sister service PMEs, place heavy weight on that. Make sure you're highlighting that, especially in green for the color of money, because it is money. They're looking for joint warfighters, right? So attending different PME services is going to provide you an opportunity, because now you're going to be thinking on a different strategic level to get where you need to go. Okay. Then there's always the favorite of senior enlisted joint PME. Knocking that out as a tech sergeant is something you can do, especially senior enlisted joint PME 1. The SEAC and his developmental team are going through reviewing that process right now, but there is still a chance to go get it on JKO and get yourself squared away. Or if you already have it complete, make sure it's loaded in your records. That's one more thing to separate you from the next guy. Okay, decorations. We're gonna move on to that area. So did they receive a decoration amongst their PCS? So not every PCS is going to warrant a deck. Maybe their service wasn't as meritorious or high achievement or high performing as it could have been. And that's okay. It happens sometimes. Maybe they can find pitfalls, or you can probably see that in their EPRs and give them that feedback, so then they can accelerate on this next assignment that they're on and really set them up for success that way. But your top competitive NCOs and senior NCOs that are going for, or NCOs going for master and masters going for seniors, they're going to have an MSM sitting on top ready to go. They're going to have an accommodation medal up there ready to go if they're NCO going to senior NCO. If they're not getting the feedback of what they're doing wrong, of saying, hey, you didn't perform at this high caliber, you didn't do these things. Again, this mark something. If I like to mark it in red, because that's just conversation pieces for me. So mark it in red so you can have that conversation piece of them to make sure that they're getting the feedback that they need to move on and progress in the correct direction. Okay. Other information. So sometimes you want to take a look at security clearance. Some people have security clearances loaded to them, some don't. And there might be a very valid reason of why their security clearance did not get renewed, right? Their job did not require it. They didn't need that anymore. And that's completely fine. But if it's something that's in their career field that's coming up, like myself, I have a TS, a CI, and a Yankee White. So if mine's coming up due, that gets highlighted in red, so I can have that conversation with my security manager, and we can move on together. Okay, so EPR data, we're getting close to the end of the surf now. You need to look at your reports and matching your SCODs, right? There could be double reports loaded. There could be missing blank ones. These are all common type of technical errors, and just some simply easy ones you guys can flag and have that conversation piece of getting your records adjusted and the proper EPRs loaded. This also gives you opportunity to mark any poor performance and then get ready to start having those conversations. So this is the overarching. And then once we get into, in a few minutes, we'll get into reviewing an EPR. That'll really set you up for the full conversation of where they could be better improving themselves. The next, duty history. So duty history and EPRs are really almost one and the same, right? You're looking for gaps in assignments. And this is the chance for them to also highlight, or for you to also highlight in their records, if they've been doing the same job repeatedly for year after year after year after year after year. Now, some jobs, they don't allow too much progression. Like, you kind of have your set path and it is what it is. Or they're just comfortable where they're at and they want to do this thing and make widgets all day long. And that's great, because guess what? In the Air Force, we need people to make widgets and make widgets very well and be a technical expert at making widgets. They want to do something more. They want to go out and experience different things. have DSD opportunities if they are eligible for it. There is, like I said, positions at your wing. They're probably looking for people, high caliber people, to run protocol, to run the commander's action group if your wing commander has one. Um, Work with your finance manager and be the wing's GPC card holder. Go be an exec for the command chief. There's lots of different opportunities. So keep your eyes open, and if they're looking for something different, that's an option for them too. Your career assistance advisor too can be a huge help there, because they can help with any retraining, or maybe point them in the right direction as far as a DSD. Okay, so a blanket statement, going across senior NCO promotion boards. Some of the highlighted items that you can really chalk up and see: strong EPRs, performance levels, a full CERF with all education filled out, individual achievements and performance awards, having education back in going after a bachelor's, or have a completed bachelor's, and then having that PMC. So I highlight this slide, and you're probably like, okay, yep, these are all common things. But this was built easily 7 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, and it's still very relevant today. We're still looking for the same senior NCOs. Those chiefs and that colonel that are sitting on the promotion board, they're still looking for the same people. So it's still very valid, still very good information to get after. Okay, so now we're going to get into reviewing EPRs and decks. So I'll pause for a second to give you guys a chance, because I've been talking 100 miles an hour, and I know I apologize. Any questions on CERF review and what that process entails? Okay, no questions so far. So we'll proceed into EPRs and decorations. So the biggest thing when you're doing EPRs and decorations, they're very similar in what you're looking for out of them. Now, I talked about Skittles, so you're probably, if you're really into really into Skittles and you like them, this will really stand out to you. It sticks out to me just because it's something different. It's a little weird, right? So red or yellow, purple, orange, blue, and green. Now you're looking at these colors going, I don't have a purple highlighter. I don't have, excuse me, a green highlighter, or you're missing something, right? The beautiful process about all this is we do everything digitally now through PDF and Adobe. I could send my records to somebody in Ramstein via PDF, and they're going to get in and be able to open it and do what they need to do and highlight. If you go to the comment tab, there's a couple different things at your disposal, and I just want to talk about Adobe real quick. There's a comments sticky note you can put in there and add some comments and feedback, which is great, especially if you're doing somebody's records that are in a different country and time zone altogether. So it gives you your chance to add in every key detail, and you need to do that. Please do that. But it also gives you a chance to highlight something. When you highlight it, you're wondering, how do I change the color? Well, right click on it and then click on properties, and then the little square will pop up and it'll give you the color. Click on that little square where the color is at, and then you can change a different color coding from there. Now, I mentioned that because it's important once we get into this. And again, I'm going to give you a full rundown of everything. First, what the colors mean, and then I'll wrap it all up together at the very end when we talking about EPRs, on why you're looking for what you're looking for. Okay, so I'm going to give you the initial part, and then I'll wrap it all up so it makes complete sense. And if it doesn't, please ask questions. Okay, so when you're going through your EPRs and decorations, we're going to start with the red and we're going to start with the yellow. Very quickly scan their EPR, and you're looking for repeat or identical content in multiple EPRs. So it's okay to have a similar bullet if it's showing progression. If you had a bullet on 2 consecutive EPRs and it's been the same level of involvement, and you're about to make it your third EPR because it's a very easy to bullet because you've already done it, don't do it. Don't do it. Find something else to capture. Do that event. Absolutely do that event, because it's important to you. That's why you've done it for 3 years. But don't capture it this year, because all you're doing is putting a negative trend for yourself. And then if somebody reviews your records or you're reviewing somebody else's records, you're going to highlight that in red. Misspellings. So be careful with misspellings because some leadership teams intentionally misspell words like leadership, right? They don't spell it all out. It's LDRHSHP. Your different MAJCOMs and numbered air forces have different approval levels of what they do for acronyms and abbreviations. Just be mindful of that stuff. If it looks like it's somebody's shorthand writing, let it go. If it is spelled completely incorrectly, like coding is spelled CDOING, okay, highlight that in red. Somebody misspelled that and mistyped that. Important information, like you're thinking of misspelling, they can figure it out when they read it. That's attention to detail. And that's something you need to be cognizant of reviewing records, and something they need to be cognizant of when they go to sign their EPR. Do a quick spell check. I'm pretty confident. I know I've rerouted 3 or 4 EPRs. My troops have rerouted through 3 or 4 EPRs that we've had to go in and fix some spelling errors, and it's okay. It happens. Just to clarify things, and it's their records. We care about them and their records, so maybe we make sure we go back and fix those. We're humans. We make mistakes. Especially because Adobe definitely doesn't do a spell check as well as like a Word, Microsoft Word does, right? So low ratings. So going off, getting marked. This is Scott Johnson, Master Sergeant Scott Johnson's personal beliefs. This is not, is how I feel things. You strive to get marked up, right? Everyone is doing these great things, or they're doing their job day in and day out, which is all average, and then you're striving to get marked up. So lower ratings are those average or below. So if you're not doing anything above average and you're just showing up, punching a time card and going home, that needs to be talked about. We have so much work to get done as an Air Force and as Air Force members. We need those people stepping up to do 1 or 2 more additional things, which should in turn relate to them getting maybe a little bit better of a rating, as long as they're exceeding above or most, or if not all, of the expectations of their supervisors, raters. Okay, you're going to highlight their duty titles and additional duties in yellow. I cannot figure out how to do the bold black, so I apologize for that one, but highlight them in yellow. And what you're looking for is repeat trends, making sure they're showing progression and where they're going for. And if not, then again, have that conversation about, hey, maybe go with the wing or go to DSD. Or if they're happy just where they're at, that's okay too. And then yellow, you're looking for golden nuggets. Those are your strong, significant content. And you're really just trying to find the high detail points of showing their leadership and their scope of what they've been involved in and what they've been doing. So strategic communication is in purple, and that's our next one. And that is all about properly communicating to your peers, your senior leaders, going for speeches, presentations. It doesn't have to be a career field change or rewriting huge things, but if you're rewriting TOs, or rewriting some type of local OIs that your leadership values, those are big deals, and that's you showing strategic communication above your level, right? Messages that could be read by higher commands. If you're doing an immersion brief and you're sending a message and getting things tailored for their brief that they're coming in, a lot of senior leaders like bullet point background papers so they can understand what they're walking into before they go into it. That's strategic communication. So capture that you're doing that type of stuff. It's important. This is my favorite topic next, with mentorship. It's in orange. And I highlight this area because we can't grow as individuals, as members in the Air Force, or as the Air Force as a whole if we don't mentor one another. This is a mentorship event that we're doing right now. I love doing these types of things and having these conversations with you folks. Now, this is a little different, being virtual and recorded, and somebody's gonna watch this in 6 months from now and not understand half the stuff I'm saying. And I will do it again then. They can message me and I will come do it again. But mentorship, you're looking for basic community support, leadership type panels, professional organization. Just being a member is great. They need support, but go for those different positions: fundraising committee, professional development coordinator, your social media advisor, right? Anything along those lines. And then your troops should be getting recognized for awards. And as their supervisor, you are mentoring them on these things. Or if their supervisor is, if they're claiming, they're a tech sergeant or a staff sergeant, and their airmen are winning BTZ and airmen of the years and airmen of the quarters, and they mentor these individuals to do a thing, that's important. That's really important, because there's an enlisted force structure, an Air Force handbook that tells us that's important and we should be doing that. Key positions. So this goes in back into your private orgs, professional organizations, as far as holding a key leadership position, such as president, VP, being a POC for any type of major wing or annual type events, POC for a wing commander's call, or being part of an AFSO 21 team. Or you're filling in for your boss, right? He's the superintendent and you're going to sit in for a few days. Those are all very important things to do. Or you're filling in for the shirt, you're becoming an additional duty shirt. Those are key positions because they need to be there in order to function properly. Your superintendents need to be able to go on leave, and they're passing over the keys of the castle to you. Step up and grab those opportunities. They're big. They're big because they're showing that you're ready for the next stripe, or next position, next role, next duty, right? The next area is performance validation. So that's going to be in green. Performance validation and green are associated for a specific reason. You're kind of reaping your rewards. So we go in every day, we turn wrenches on an aircraft, we check people's teeth. If you're dental, you're checking people's medical records, you're MPF, and you're annotating all these EPR changes and SURF changes that people are trying to do. You're working, right? So you want to earn money. Earning money, you're getting rewarded. Green money. And then you got awards that match all that. I know that was super cheesy, but it's going to make sense to you, I promise, because you're going to see it and it's going to click in your head now, or you're going to think of me and think of how cheesy that was. So performance validation is all about your must promotes, promote nows, your master sergeant, this board, or senior master sergeant, first billet, first time, your individual and team awards if they led the team. And then if you're getting stratified. Okay, so a lot of people don't have control over their raters comments, but highlighting to those individuals what their rater is saying about them, and their additional rater is saying about them, is pretty significant stuff, because then you can really paint the picture of how they've been doing day-to-day basis. So really you break down the bullet in the back, and the end of the bullet, does it just say promote? Saying promote is good because they're saying they're, this guy deserves the next, or girl deserves the next stripe, the next position, the next job, whatever it is. But if they're using those punch words like master, this board, let me be clear, like next person, it's using different punch words to accurately say that this is the next person to go do X position or X rank. And then in the beginning of the bullet, you want to look for those key leadership positions, those recognition, the stratifications, those should all be in there. In the middle part of the bullet, you look at the facts and the job recommendation. So it's great to have this push line to say that you're the next one for the board, you're the top senior NCO, or that they're the top airman. But having the facts in the middle is really important. So make sure you're covering that with them, and those facts should be golden nuggets. So it should be in yellow. Okay, so now we're going to get into why we did everything we did. Why did I just break down all those different color codes to you? So, yep, it provides a great visual aid for them to see where they're at. Now, there's really three types of things you're going to see. One, no color, which no color you can kind of guess with all the different things that we talked about is they're not performing at a high level, and they definitely need some mentorship and guidance to get where they need to go. Maybe a simple conversation of asking what's going on. Maybe they don't understand how things should be done. They weren't briefed correctly or mentored correctly the first time. It happens, unfortunately, but it does happen. Then you got your two other ones. One's a functional expert, and the other one's a functional expert and an ambassador. There's one key component to both of those, though: functional expert. You have to be very good at your job for the other stuff to matter. If you are not good at your day-to-day job, the extracurriculars that you go do to icing on the cake, put your candles on there and light them and make sure you look great, not going to mean anything. You have to kill it at your job. Your boss has to know you're killing it at your job. His boss has to know you're killing it at your job. Then your ultimate boss, being the commander, needs to know that you're killing it at your job. And he's got to say, yep, this dude or this girl is killing it at their job. Functional expert, make sure you are showing that you are a SME in your job, whatever your job is. If they're not showing that they're a SME, have that conversation with them and see what's going on to see if they understand how important their job is. Chief Satchel, retired Chief Satchel, he did a video presentation a few weeks back. I want to say it was in March or April. And I watched it probably 2 or 3 times. It was great. And he specifically talked about making sure that you did your job first, because he had a stellar senior NCO, a great individual, and they put up more than half their EPR was outside of their career field, outside of their scope and their job. And then he asked them to fix it. He was trying to stratify this person. He asked them to fix it, and they fixed 1 or 2 and fix the whole thing. They end up not getting stratified for it. So functional experts, that's our job in the Air Force. The extra stuff that we do as far as a private org, mentorship, development, leading people, those are great things. But if you're not technically sound at your job, then it's not going to help. And they got to make sure you understand that when you're reading that, you want to look for that Skittles, the taste of the rainbow. That's why I'm connecting the dots on that one. Okay, so we just talked about going over a CERF. We just talked about going over EPRs. I'm going to open the floor up to any other questions before we jump into talking about feedback. And we're almost at the end of our presentation here. Is there any questions on EPRs and CERF? Okay, we did get a question. Perfect. So from a member, we have, looking at records, how would you grade individual versus team and subordinate awards? Which would more weight from those boards, or for those chiefs and colonels on the boards? Okay. So Master Sergeant, I've never sat on a board, but I've talked to quite a few chiefs that have been on promotion boards. My current chief has been on a promotion board, most recent one, so he's given us some great feedback for what he can give us on the board briefs and the board insights on what they're allowed to, because they keep that stuff close-hold because they don't want to build checklists. So, okay, individual versus team and subordinate awards. So let's go individual versus team first. If it is an individual award saying that you are the NCO, Airman of the Year, Senior NCO of the Year, whatever it is that's saying you are the best for the quarter, for the year, whatever the award period is, that is always going to carry the most weight. The next to me, from what I've seen, the next one to carry the most weight is your functional type awards, your specific job specific type awards. So for maintenance, we have maintenance professionals of the quarter, MPO, and maintenance professional of the year. Maintenance chiefs and maintenance colonels value maintenance awards. So your Lou Allen for sortie generation, your Saigon for leadership, leading maintenance, those are all key level, high level items. So your NCO of the quarters and then your maintenance pro of the quarters are actually pretty close comparison for maintenance. Now, hopefully that kind of clears that one up a little bit. Then individual versus subordinate awards. If you are putting your ducks in a row as far as mentoring, leading, and developing people, those individuals awards should come, and your subordinates awards should come if you are mentoring them and leading them correctly in the right direction. So individual award is always going to have the most weight. Your individual AFSC type specific awards, probably right there up with it. And then your team awards, if you led the team or had significant, like if you didn't change this component, the team would not have succeeded. They would not have done whatever thing that it would have done. That's next in line. And then your subordinates awards. Okay, but I did mention the Air Force and handbook as far as the enlisted force structure. That is very clear about making sure you recognize, as senior NCO, making sure you recognize your subordinates, your airmen and your NCOs. So Hopefully I answered that question. I feel like I did, but I also feel like I went off on a couple different tangents on that. So which holds the most weight? Copy. Thank you. Perfect. Okay. Okay. So feedback. I mentioned earlier that these individuals are trusting you with their social security number and trusting you with any type of personal information. Literally, you could have met them 6 months ago. They're asking you to review your records, and you've never met them before in your life. That's very personal information. So if they're trusting you with that, make sure you're carving out time to properly assess their records and give them valuable information to work with. Then sit down with them and give them that feedback. I understand you're busy. We are all busy. We all have a million different things going on, especially COVID. You would think COVID probably being isolated from away from your teams and your work center maybe makes you more free. It gives you more free time. For me, it does not. For a lot of other people, it does not. And actually, it's more work. So make sure you pause and you give that feedback for the individual so they understand where they're at and where they need to succeed and how to succeed. And then self-reflection. So when you're doing the records review for them and you're highlighting your color coding, it's a very good visual aid, like I mentioned, but it also gives them a chance to self-reflect. What are they looking for? Do they want to stay a technical expert and be just that functional level expert of the SME? That's okay. Like I said, we need those individuals. Um, if they're looking for greater horizons and want to be the senior leaders, want to be a chief, want to be a senior master sergeant, the superintendent, then they need to start going after those other things to broaden their leadership scope and capabilities.